Hello, everyone, and welcome to American LFC. My name is Nate, and this is
Eli.
We are brothers. We live in the United States of America, and we love Liverpool Football Club, and so we've decided to talk about it today.
Yes, we're going to be covering the weekend's game against Wolves at Molineux.
Yeah, we're going to dive sort of right into it. How is everything with you recently? Any updates to talk about at all for the channel, or you want to just get into this thing?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so, you want to just do a overall, you want to give me just a 60-second exploration of what this game was this weekend?
I guess it started slow, and then Klopp did his typical halftime bollocking, I would imagine, and they came out a completely different team. I think the halftime sub made a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do what they do best and put three past them unanswered. It was great. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good assessment of what happened this weekend. Tale of two halves, really. What an incredible game. Where should we start? Should we start off with the fact that we gave up a goal in the 6th minute, or?
Well, I think before we even get to that, we mentioned that we finally broke the streak of 3 losses and 3 draws playing the early Saturday game after international break.
We've broken the juju, the voodoo.
Yes, we have broken the voodoo.
Which is great because hopefully Klopp will shut up about it. To be totally honest,
yeah.
I think it's like I understand why he's doing it. To me, it feels like it gives the players like a sort of additional mental hurdle to overcome, and also maybe an excuse instead of just being like, "No, we're great, we will win."
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully that it won't be the last time. For some reason, we keep getting scheduled at the early kickoff. I mean, I know why we keep getting scheduled. BT Sport wants to be able to have games that are of importance that people will watch. So I don't know how many early season kickoff games we have compared to Man City or United, but I think it'd be interesting to see. They just want to spread it around the weekend, so everybody's watching a game at least every day of the weekend.
Oh, speaking of United, I saw an interesting stat today that we have 1 more point than United, Chelsea, and Everton combined. Just feels good.
We're all going down.
Yeah, that's the bottom 3 right there.
Yeah, exactly. Season predictions here, ladies and gentlemen.
American right.
LFC, everybody going down. The 3 going down: Chelsea Football Club, Manchester United, Everton. Okay, great. Well, yeah. Look. There are a lot of things that go into play when you have the early kickoff. I think it's really easy to look at our team, look at the personnel in our team, look at when they played and where they played on the planet. And it doesn't take a lot of convincing or investigation to understand why McAllister was maybe not at the races
right.
Saturday morning at 12 or early afternoon at 12:30 p.m. England time, because he played it was like 36 hours prior in a completely different hemisphere, in a completely different time zone, in an altitude that wasn't really to his advantage. So it was definitely a tough first half for McAllister. I think everybody could see that. I think he knew it. Klopp obviously knew it. But I don't think it's representative of the player at all. I'm not worried about it. How do you feel?
No. No, I think he's a top talent. And, the more he plays, the more our brand new midfield, kind of coalesces, I guess.
Yeah.
I think, it's only going to keep going up from here, And with bringing Gravenberch in on deadline day, there's competition for those spots now. It's just not those 3 are walking in, to be the starting lineup.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Gravenberch settles. Obviously, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. He obviously makes his debut in this game. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how we end up setting up throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, should we get into the first half or?
Yeah, let's do it.
It was bad.
Yeah, so my first note is another really soft card for Alexis McAllister. He got a yellow before the goal was scored.
Yeah.
For I don't know, almost nothing.
Yeah, pulling a person's shoulder back as they're running away from you into the defense.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not soft, but I could see how there's an argument that it's a card. You know what I mean? I think the bigger problem is not the fact that McAllister got a soft yellow card. I think the bigger problem is the fact that he shouldn't be playing a sole six.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening, right? Like the thing is, he's been brought in to play an 8 who plays 10, right? So we have 2 10s. The problem is his skill set isn't like the thing that he's great at isn't running back towards the goal to prevent people from getting to our defense, right? That's not the thing he's great at. So by putting him in that position, he makes a foul. Yeah, he gets a silly card early on. It's soft, but still, it's like it's super frustrating because it is one of those things where you're like, yeah, that's why we bid 111 million pounds for Caicedo. Mm-hmm. So that sold number 6. You know.
I mean, spoiler alert, that's a bullet we dodged on that one, it feels like. But then again, it's not really a fair comparison because Chelsea is such a soup sandwich that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I personally, yes. So he hasn't lit the world on fire in his first three games for Chelsea, a sinking dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't write him off. He's got an 8-year contract. This kid's gonna be good. Honestly, like we laugh, but the thing is, like there's 2 things about that transfer, and again, we'll get back to the game. The first thing about that transfer is it is an absolutely irresponsible amount of money that was paid for this player. Mm-hmm. I remember us being linked not too long ago, 2 or 3 seasons ago, with the Brighton's previous defensive midfielder, number 6, Bissouma, who went to Tottenham. Mm-hmm. Who, until Postecoglou arrived, was also not transitioning well into a top 7? Would you say top 7 club? Mm-hmm. So he was having difficulty getting his wings sort of and establishing himself in a larger, higher pressure situation. I mean, Brighton gives these players the opportunity to find themselves and to play really great football. There's just a step up. There's just a level of pressure. There's a level of eyes. There's a level of notoriety, and not everybody can do it. Bissouma seems like he's coming around and doing really well for Spurs this season, but it took two seasons. Mm-hmm. I would imagine Caicedo will do the same if he doesn't end up in Saudi Arabia in 18 months. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the first thing was that he's too expensive, and the second thing was that there wasn't a large enough sample size to actually merit that expense, which is that he played 1 full season. I mean, we should look this up. I mean, I think I could, but it was something to the effect of he played like 11 games the previous season, and then he played 1 full season for Brighton. Mm-hmm. So it's like season and a half, or let's say it's a season and a half, 1.5 seasons of professional football, and everybody's like, this guy's the second coming. Mm-hmm. It's not dissimilar from Enzo Fernandez, right? Who is like also just played 6 months at a top team in Europe. If you at Benfica, and then shows up to Chelsea, and it's like, okay, he's an incredible talent. We can all see it. right? But they're still 21. They're still 22 or 23 years old. It's
right.
like they're learning their craft. They're learning their game. And they're coming into their prime years, but boy, they got a tough road to hoe. So anyway, that was a detour into Caicedo, into the Chelsea transfer policy.
Right.
But I guess that we got there because the idea is that McAllister picks up an early yellow card because he's been taken advantage of in a way that is not his strong suit. And clearly that was part of Wolves' strategy, which is like pressure him and run at him.
Exactly.
That was their whole strategy.
Yep. Yeah.
And once actually, about 30 minutes into the game, we finally got it by the scruff of the neck, and it looked like oh, okay, they're growing into this game, but we're jumping ahead too. We got a yellow card with McAllister at the 4th minute, and then 3 minutes later, Pedro Neto, incredible run, just made Joel Matip look like a statue. Just ran right past him. I was like, what's his deal? Can we sign him?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we have a dearth of left wingers, so I'm not sure that getting another one is really the thing that we need. But does he play on the right? Because we're going to need one of those pretty soon.
Yep.
Pedro Neto, yeah, incredible. Really, really lovely. In fact, hold on, let me scroll up here really quickly and say, I just want to make sure that I get his name correct. Yeah, Hong Hee-chan, who scores the goal. Korean right winger. Really talented guy. 7 minutes. The first 25 minutes of this game were absolutely atrocious for Liverpool.
Yeah, and on watching it back today, I do feel Andy Robertson probably could have done a little better in the concession of that goal, because I honestly think the shot megs him, or he's throwing a leg out and it goes under it, and I think I even texted you when it was live about hey, that's why we coach our high schoolers not to turn your back,
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like he could have done better. I think there's an argument Allison could have done better. The 3 defenders that let Pedro Neto literally walk through them probably could have done better. Also, I think it was transition on a giveaway, right? Like we just had a bad pass and they beat us on transition. So it's like, our pass percentage in the first 25-30 minutes was absolutely terrible.
Yeah. So my notes are basically, it was we got beat to almost every 50-50 in the first half. The passing was just sloppy Joe sandwich. And we were very lucky not to go down a second goal in the 33rd when Acuna just, I don't know if he mistimed his jump, lost the flight of the ball, but I think it hit him in the midsection, luckily.
Yeah, he almost jumped too high.
Yeah.
That was incredible. That was an incredible miss. Yeah, the game has a totally different energy, space, and outcome probably if he puts that away, which probably should have, honestly. And we were lucky to squeak away with that, because that was another great passage of play after a giveaway.
Right.
That's the biggest thing to me. We were just off, right? Our passing was off, our pressing timing was off, and it's always just the fact that we come back. It's an early game from international break. It's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. But I mean, they have plenty of international players on Wolves. They hit the ground running.
I think they said Acuna played 20 minutes for Brazil.
Right. I mean, Hong Hee-chan played for Korea. Was there, scored a goal. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Pedro Neto played because he was a live wire.
Yeah.
But I'd say about 30 minutes into the game, we started to come alive. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think Gakpo had a chance there, and so did Jota had one that he just skied over the bar, and then Gakpo had a chance. And then I'm trying to think, there was a bit of a calamity in front of their goal.
Yeah, just
before half. That, it was like, man, guys, you just got to put that in the back of the net because they were just all over the place.
I mean, they tried. It was like I watched it back and I was like, what could anybody have done to put this away? And the thing is, like, there were just so many bodies. It was like, the goalkeeper was struggling to stand up and was falling down, and like on his side for the first save, that Mo just fires it low and hard at the ground, and it was like, oh, okay, that gets blocked, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. But it's just like there were just like 5 bodies in front of the goal. It was just like, okay, well, unless somebody chips it, unless somebody takes the choice and is like, I'm just going to chip it.
Right.
But the thing is, there's no guarantees because then somebody bicycles it out, somebody heads it out. It's like you kind of just gotta rip it and hope it finds the back of the net, and it just didn't. But for personally, for me, observing it, like, that was the moment that I was like, oh, the tables turned. For me, that I was like, I watched that, I was like, oh, we got him. I was like, oh yeah, we got this.
Yeah. It's almost like the Acuna miss was kind of like a wake up call, that they were like, oh crap, we gotta start playing something the way we know we should,
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like just so many questions that have to be asked. I mean, the truth is that we have to be a little bit patient, and I think as a fan base, we've got to approach this season with quite a bit of grace, because we let 6 senior midfielders go. Maybe 7 if you include Arthur Melo. And that's a lot of people to ship on. You know what I mean? We brought in 4. That's great. I did see a stat recently that before the game against Wolves, Szoboszlai and McAllister had both played more minutes than Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain combined for last season.
Man.
3 games into the season. So availability is a big thing, right?
Right.
So, which we're obviously seeing, right? Okay, Van Dijk, not available. Trent, not available. I do think that there's part of that too, right? We were struggling a little bit in the first half. I think because we've just drilled into the team for the last 4 months that we're doing this box midfield. And the one person that it's completely built on, that you cannot operate this without, has a hamstring injury. And Joe Gomez just simply isn't a creative force, and that's fine. I don't think any of us should expect him to be, but he's just not going to be able to do the box midfield. He's not going to be able to push into the middle and do that. Robertson's not really going to be able to do that either. He's not like pinging balls around. I actually thought it was interesting that it seemed like we started to pick up steam when Szoboszlai started to drop deeper and pick up the ball. And it was like, fine, I'll just do it. And then we started to pick up a lot of momentum. Because it basically gave McAllister an out ball.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an out ball, and then he can spray. I saw part of the first half, some highlights off of LFC's Instagram, where he was just spraying balls out to Robbo. So
I almost ordered a Szoboszlai jersey today.
Yeah, I don't think it would be unreasonable to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about him right now. I think before even getting to the second half, there's one thing that we learned, which is that he's worth twice the amount of money that we paid for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We dodged the Caicedo bullet for 111 million pounds, and I think we got him for 70 million pounds, or they're close to it, on a release clause. And I legitimately think that he's a world-class player in the making.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a generational talent.
Yeah,
like they are going to be talking about him, like in the way, like, you know, Hungary might not be the greatest team, so it might be like a Lewandowski type thing, right? Where it's like he was on Poland, and you're like, wow, this guy's a world-class player, and internationally it might not add up to much, but yeah, I think that we're going to be really smiling for many years to come. He's like 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, he's outstanding. He is an outstanding football player.
Yeah.
His touch, his range of passing, his speed, his size. I heard somebody recently say, I wish I could quote who it was, that they were talking about how it's not uncommon for midfielders to, this makes sense, you know, to start forward as 10s sort of in their early younger years. They sort of become more box-to-box as they learn the game and become, you know, more wise. And then they go back even to like a 6 when they start to lose a step. And you're like, he's 6'1", almost 6'2". You know what I mean? He played in the double pivot portions for Leipzig. Like, there's a possibility that in 4, 5, 6 years, he could be our, you know, what I mean? It's like, he could be number 6. Oops.
Yeah.
Monitor went out. But yeah, I think he's incredible. I think that we're going to have a really lovely season to enjoy his talents, and I just can't wait to keep watching Liverpool play this season. Because the more they play, the better they'll be, and the less of those 30-minute weird patches they'll have.
Yeah. I mean, even in the kind of like that initial 30 minutes where things weren't really, you know, going to plan, I would say.
Hey, you got balloons. Where'd those balloons come from?
I have no idea why I did that.
It was super funny. You scratched your eyebrow. What happens if you scratch your eyebrow again? Okay, all right. It was not AI.
Oh, weird. Okay, okay.
Who cares?
Apple is messing with us. I updated to all the new OS today, so it's still trying to figure out what all's going on.
Yeah, I need to do that too. Sorry.
Where were we?
You were saying that even in 30 minutes, even though they were looking sloppy, there you had a butt to that.
Well, and I felt Szoboszlai was kind of the bright spot to that, you know. I don't remember him giving the ball away too many times. It really felt like, and I hate to kind of come back to this, but it just felt like McAllister was so off that a lot of the issues kind of in those first 30 minutes were stemming from him just being off the pace, making a sloppy pass, you know, getting caught in possession, and then the quick transition happens. But again, like, he got back, Wednesday night from Argentina or wherever they were playing, you know?
Yeah.
It's not his fault. If anything, it just highlights, like, man, I think we had a stellar transfer window, and based on some highlights I've seen, I think getting rid of Fabinho and Henderson was absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And obviously with Naby Keita being hurt, unsurprisingly, you know, it just feels like it's like, man, if we had a little bit more midfield depth, you know, we wouldn't have to play him in that situation, you know.
Well, but
when when Gravenberch is up to speed and Endo is up to speed, you know, there won't be that kind of pressure. I was honestly surprised a little bit that Gravenberch didn't get the start after snubbing international duty to stay at training just to work with Klopp and the managers to really try and get up to speed as soon as he could.
Yeah, no, I think that's first of all, that's a great professional move. Like, I think it's smart that he did that. But I can't imagine giving him a start. He's still 21 years old. He's still like a young player. And even though he's great and he's like clearly has the raw talent and the physical attributes to be a world beater, like it took Fabinho 6 months to get settled in. Like, we're doing really specific stuff. And
right.
I'll tell you what it's not. It's not like Bayern Munich.
Right.
Right. So I think it's going to take a lot of time to see him like come into the fold as to where we see. I think that he'll be playing Europa League games for sure.
Yeah.
To get up his conditioning, to get up his confidence, to play games, to start to learn the system. But look, not to jump too far ahead, but he came in for Mo Salah. He came in and played right wing. For this
I
thing.
have that. Yeah. I put right wing, exclamation point, question mark, like, what? All right.
I mean, my personal thought for that is, and, we're all over the place here as far as, like, the structure of this game. But we're improvising. This is freestyle jazz.
Yeah.
I think that Klopp just wants to get the kid on the pitch. I think he's just, like, really – it is really clear – that he wanted him so badly, and that he just wants this kid to play, and that the biggest selling point that he probably had for this guy is that Bayern is not playing him, and Klopp is like, I will play you. So any moment that he has to give him some minutes to get him on the pitch, I think he's going to do it. No matter what position it is, probably just so that so that Gravenberch doesn't feel like, oh man, I went to another club and they're just setting me on the bench.
Right.
I don't think that's what Klopp wants to do.
Right.
So, do we have any other things that we want to talk about the first half, or do we want to just get it over with?
I think the sooner we put that behind us, the better.
Hopefully the team does the same, because my God, what a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and, I think Klopp will be one to say, hey, we're going to sit down and we're going to watch the game footage of this, and we're going to talk about what went wrong, so as not to, repeat the decisions from his standpoint or from, on the field decisions by the players, right? It's like, hey, we got to learn we won. They played out of their skin the second half, but there's a lot to be learned from that first 30 minutes, especially at this point in the season where you have time to save it, and it doesn't become a recurring, we're going to sleep for the first 30 minutes and then, just play an outstanding second half.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that it's like with better opposition, they would have been 3-0 up in the first 30 minutes.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, honestly.
But there's that interesting stat from the end of last year that Klopp has dropped more points to teams starting the day in the bottom three than in the top four.
Yeah. I know, but the thing is that it's like, that's not the teams that we have to be worried about, I think. The bottom three, we do inevitably end up having like a weird result at some point. I think the ones that you got to be, it's when they're just not up for it, right? When it's just like, what happened here? Oh.
Did you trip the breaker? Yeah.
No, I think it's just my LED light. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Should I try this other one? Is it still going to be too bright? Is it too bright?
Oh, I think you're fine.
Okay. I think the issue is when you're coming up against teams in like the mid-table, right? Where it's just like, oh man. I mean, I was gonna say West Ham and Brighton, but then I was like, well, I can't even say that now. West Ham is in like 4th place, Brighton's in like 5th, or they're in between. It's basically like us, City, Spurs, and those two. But that's traditionally where those teams would lie, right? In between 6th and 10th, 6th and 12th, or something like that. Those are the places where I feel like you gotta worry.
Right.
With a sloppy Joe 30 minutes like that, West Ham would have put us to the sword, especially the way they're playing this season.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, hopefully they can nip that in the bud and it doesn't become a force of habit. And they can just start playing games like they started the second half of this match.
Yeah.
Obviously, the change at halftime is McAllister comes off. He is replaced with
Luis Diaz.
Which means Gakpo drops into midfield. It actually looked like Szoboszlai started to play a double pivot.
Yep.
With
I noticed that
Curtis
too.
Jones.
Yeah. Yep. They kind of made a tactical shift to say it didn't look like a straight 4-2-3-1, but still a 4-3-3, but with 2 pivots and an attacking mid.
Yeah.
And it's handy that Gakpo has the ability to do that right now, especially with the embarrassment of riches we have across the front line. His ability to drop back and play that attacking midfielder is just going to guarantee him, more game time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually feel like I think that we started to really click because it felt like Szoboszlai was basically just picking up the metronome from Trent. That's exactly. It was just like, well, they'll just drop Szoboszlai into where Trent's normally occupying, and okay, great. Well, everything's working now.
And I noticed that Jota went out to the right and Mo was playing through the middle.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning until 10 minutes later.
Well, until Nunez came on. Yeah.
Nunez comes on for
Gakpo.
Jota, right? Oh, he comes on for Gakpo, and what was it? Harvey Elliott comes on for
Harvey Elliott.
Harvey Elliott comes on for Gakpo, or for Jota.
Yeah,
whichever way that went.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have it written down that Nunez came on for Gakpo and Elliott came on for Jota, and then we kind of resume our normal 4-3-3 with Salah out on the right. But before we get to that, Diaz had an immediate impact. Like, he had that header in the 47th minute that was, honestly, if he'd been playing the whole game, I think he would have put that away, But had literally been on the pitch for, 90 seconds at that point?
Yeah. I mean, he's just such an incredible player. You know what I mean? I mean, they get it. It's like it's hard to bench Jota after coming off international break where he scores like a hat trick in a game because it's like Jota is the type of player that he scores 7 and 5. You know what I mean? 7 goals in 5 games, and then he won't score for 9 months, and then he'll score 10 goals in 8 games or whatever, and you're like, how does this guy do that? So, traditionally speaking, it makes sense as to why Klopp decided to start Jota. I'm sure there are other reasons as far as, like, it's a big team. They're going to have large center backs, Dawson in the middle. Jota is able to find those small spaces and great on the head. So, it's like, slicing runs into the box. He's great, quick fire reflexes. He just kind of scores goals out of nothing. So, I get why he's there. He's a poacher. But, yeah, man, Diaz, dude. He's so incredible because he'll just sprint at you and you're like you gotta figure it out. Yeah, really talented.
And then in the 55th, Gakpo scores with Mo Salah making the assist, which puts Mo at now 11 straight games with a goal contribution. Yeah,
he seems like he's pretty good at soccer, football.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, he's okay.
Maybe he should stick with it.
Yeah, make a career of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was an incredible. I mean, that was one of those situations where it was, it was almost a complete replication of the goal that Real Madrid scored against us in the Champions League final a couple of years ago, which is that it was a hard cross shot to the far post where Gakpo is just sitting, waiting to poach it. And incredible goal. Honestly, it feels like the last season that was something that we were missing. Is that we were missing those little just pick up scoopy goals that are like a little dogged and just like a little. You just need a little grit and determination to get them. So, it turned out being a great goal. I mean, the thing is like the momentum just shifted so much once we came back from the break. It was like, oh man, they were ready to go. They were ready to go, and I had no doubt in my mind when the first one went in at 55 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the 55th minute we scored, and I was like, great, we've got 35 minutes to get one more. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Took them another 30 minutes to get it, but I just knew that we were going to be able to do it. And I think that actually speaks a lot of volumes about this team, because the thing is, like, I'm not that concerned about the first 30 minutes of this game, even though maybe we should be, because it's like we really could be disemboweled by better teams. But that just feels like a blip. It feels like through Newcastle, through Bournemouth, through this game this past weekend, we have shown that we have the mental resilience to overcome adversity. And if you have the mental resilience to be able to do that, you certainly have the mental resilience to be able to just shape up a little bit at the beginning of a game.
Right. Well, I think Soboslai put on Instagram after the Newcastle game, he said, give up is not in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. He's already got captain vibes.
Yeah, exactly. We go again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with him. I like his point of view. I like him as a player. And the truth is, like, you can see it. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He plays like that, too. You could see that all through the first half. He was really frustrated. You know, you could see there were moments where he felt like he was pressing and other people weren't following on the press because everybody was just a little off in timing. I remember him seeing at least that happening one time and him turning around and yelling at people. So he's definitely a very emotional player, which is, for us, great, right? I mean, just an entire season of him playing at Anfield is going to be such an incredible thing. I mean, we already love him. And, you know, actually in the second half, I think that there was that it was either a ball popped out on a corner and he took it on his left and just plowed it over back into the stand. But 2 weeks before that, he nailed that in the side netting. So you're sort of like, dude, take the shot, you know, take the rip. Yeah, this is truly a praise and a masterclass of Klopp as a tactician, because they came in with a plan which was wholeheartedly beaten by the plan by Wolves' strategy, right?
Is it Gary O'Neill? Is that his name?
Gary O'Neill, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, they bested us. They were the better side, just pure and plain and simple. And Klopp's transition to sort of, it seemed like, and tell me what you think, it seems like having them drop into a double pivot between Szoboszlai and Curtis, and then pushing the backs, the left and right back, further out, gave them more license to go down to create space along the wings. Just helped us retain the ball, because basically what they weren't doing is like the strategy. It seemed like the strategy in the first half was to just attack McAllister, who at that point in time would have been our pivot point for distributing from defense to attack. And so it seemed when we were like, okay, well, let's not do that. Let's have that portion of this come from our left and right back and push them up, and then you guys have to make a choice. And then when they make that choice, then you're like, oh, wait, Szoboszlai has an extra beat on the ball. And then you're like, oh, okay, great. Well, here's a 60-yard pass to Robbo over in the corner. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. And I know we kind of commented that Joe Gomez doesn't really have the range of passing that Trent does, but he did make some good deliveries into the box, right? I mean, there was one in the second half that Diaz a half a step further forward, and that's in the back of the net, right? You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does seem like, look, he's not that offensive of a player, but it does seem like something that he has been trying to adjust in his game, which is that he is trying to play on the front foot a little bit more, Gomez, right? Especially, it seemed like somewhere along the line in the last couple of years, he got the note from somebody that was just like, just hit the ball sooner into the box. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's like he's almost just like, I have the ball, I'm just going to hit it into the box. And I guess there are worse attributes to have from a right back. And it's also, we were more rigid defensively once we weren't giving the ball away in our defensive third. I mean, honestly, the 30 minutes between the first and the second goal were sort of a blur to me, if I remember correctly. Felt like there were a lot of corners, felt like there was a lot of pressure, felt like they had no out ball, felt like we were maintaining, recycling possession. Felt like there were a lot of passes around the back. Curtis Jones, Szoboszlai, Gomez, Szoboszlai, Curtis, Bravo, you know what I mean? Give it to Lucho Diaz, who sprints at him and then drops it back to Kurt. You know what I mean? It's like, and then obviously they paid off because 30 minutes of them just trying to keep up. The one thing that you expect, right, is that they're going to tire, and that's exactly what happened because what they did not do is track a run from our left back playing as a center forward.
Yep. Yeah.
And then we have a golden left foot by Robbo.
Yeah. Brilliant finish. I think the only thing I would insert in there before we get to the Robbo goal in the 85th minute, again assisted by Mo Salah, is Gerald Kwanzaa, the 20-year-old debutant, just had an outstanding game, right?
Yeah.
So now all the armchair transfer gurus that were bemoaning us not picking up a center back, kind of like, well, we didn't know everything that was going on. We weren't all there in training. Yeah. And obviously Klopp saw something in this kid to the point where he goes, okay, we're going to focus on a midfield rebuild, and we're going to give this kid his shot. And he's taken it, He's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran until he couldn't run anymore in the 81st minute and had to be subbed off because he was cramping up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited for him. What an incredible situation that would be for us if he turns out to be an incredible footballer, right? Because then it's just like, okay, great. So Curtis up through the academy, Trent through the academy, Harvey Elliott, not our academy, but like kind of close to the academy. Kwanzaa, the academy. I think I heard somewhere that he signed it at the age of 5.
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Yep.
And also, looking at the prices of center backs of his age, what was it, 45 to 55 million pounds they were talking about Levi Colwill, right? If he wanted to leave. Same age. They're the same age. It's like, okay, so we just saved 55 million pounds, possibly, right?
And a wage bill, right?
Right. Or what's the kid that went to Van der Ven, right? We were looking at Van der Ven. Okay, so he was 45 mil, right? We're talking about 20 and 21-year-old center backs who arguably have. Okay, so Van der Ven maybe 1 or 2 seasons actually playing as a senior footballer in the Bundesliga. Levi Colwill plays 11, 12 games last season for Brighton. Looked good, sure. Granted he's left-footed, so that's a strong plus, obviously. But, man, I'll tell you what, we shouldn't be surprised. It's not like Klopp doesn't play young kids. It's like, the thing is, it's everybody's quick to forget the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold played against Man United at Anfield when he was 18, and everybody above Nathaniel Klein, and everybody was like, "What's going on? Why is he playing this kid?" Nobody wanted this kid to be played. He played out of his skin, right? And then everybody was like, "Wow, this kid's really good, really good." It's like, yeah, it's like almost like Klopp has like trained young players to become like, I don't know, world-class footballers. Robert Lewandowski, Mario Götze.
Yeah. The list goes on and on, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, yeah, you know. Long may it continue. I'm super excited for him. It was an incredible full debut. I hope that he continues to get games. He'll obviously play in Europa League. The more minutes he can get this season, the better. It'll just build his confidence. And look, as a fan base, we've got to be comfortable accepting the fact that he's young. He will make mistakes, period.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's going to have to be okay, because this is an investment in time and saving 45 to 55 million pounds.
Yeah. Or, even more down the road.
I mean, absolutely. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, he's lean and he's still small. He's got growing to do still. You know what I mean? He's like, it's funny to see Trent now, because it was like Trent came back this summer. He's like, oh, you're a man now. Before you were still like a kid. You were like a boy playing this man's game. You're like, oh, now you've like filled out. You actually have like a man's physique. It's like, I mean, he's got a couple years till that happens.
Yeah.
You know? Van Dijk replacement?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm saying even more down the road, right? It's if that saves us $75 million in a couple years when Van Dijk's got to get moved on.
Right. What's the deal with all these players refusing to just stay with the club? You know what I mean? Like Van Dijk will leave because, like, Henderson left because he wasn't going to get the game time. He didn't want to be a James Milner.
So I don't know. I watched the We Are Liverpool, This Means More spots, probably more than I'd care to admit. But there's the 4-minute version where they're interviewing him and the cop, and he's talking about, when I play for the fans and for the city. And it's like, where did that go? You're now playing in Saudi Arabia in front of an audience of less than 1,000 people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're not in his position. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say.
But again, maybe he did look at, what happened to Gerrard, who maybe tried to stay at the top level, a season longer than he should have, or I shouldn't say stayed at the top level, utilized more than he should have been, for that last season.
Right. Well, I think arguably that's could partially be about ego, right? Because the thing is about Milner had no problem doing it. Milner had no problem playing right back, left back, center mid, whatever he needed to play for 5 minutes here, 8 minutes there, 12 minutes there. Right? The thing is like, would Gerrard do that? Would Jordan Henderson do that? Clearly, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And the question is like, will Virgil van Dijk do that?
Yeah,
Will Virgil van Dijk play group stages for Champions League games? And
we'll see.
Away.
Right.
We will see. I mean, the other thing, too, is like it is interesting. Center backs are a little bit of a different thing just because being a midfielder, you're running 11 kilometers a game. You know what I mean? It's like Virgil's not running anywhere near that, right? So it's just like your body's just totally different. It seems like he's finally getting back his stride and his strength. He's still got a mistake in him that he didn't have before the injury. Obviously, look at the red card. That was a positioning mistake, right? Yep. But man, he's still really good. He's still just, and he's the captain of our team.
Yeah.
And then we won the game. What else were we talking about? Robertson goal at the 84th minute. Harvey Elliott creates an own goal.
In the 91st, Mo Salah with the assist.
Well, technically, it's not an assist because it's an own goal.
Yeah. Well, potato.
No, agreed. I mean, it is a shame.
I mean, okay, so it's not it's maybe not an assist, but does it still get categorized as a goal contribution?
I don't know. We'll have to do
maybe Harvey Elliott get the goal contribution then, or does it just get chalked off as an own goal and nobody gets a goal contribution from the attacking side?
Chalked off as an own goal.
Yeah.
And
watching the replay today, it's very obvious that shot was going wide, and if it hadn't taken the deflection, it wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah, agreed.
But also, the stewards there at Molineux trying to get Harvey Elliott out of the Liverpool fans was pretty funny.
Yeah, they were having a little tough time to do that, huh?
Yeah.
I love the kid. I think it's great I think it's great. He just bleeds for the club. He's clearly he will stay.
Yeah, he will.
He will play James in 15 years. He will be playing 10 minutes at a time at left back for Liverpool because he loves this club. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for that. And hopefully he's just, when he decides to hang up his boots, he's got gold medals hanging from everywhere. It's gonna be, man, it's just gonna be really interesting to see how things turn out for him though, because he's a little aimless in our team, right? Like his position. What is his position?
Right. So it almost feels like, to me, to get the best out of a Harvey Elliott it's a change in system from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1, where he's more of that right attacking midfielder as opposed to the pacey winger that Mo Salah is, right?
Right. I mean, I guess there's an argument that it's like he could be taking up the Szoboszlai position, right? Which is like essentially a 10 on the right. So it's him and Mo are swapping in between each other. He cuts in, Mo cuts in. The thing is that it works really well with Szoboszlai is that he's right-footed, so he can cut down to the byline, right? So the defender always has to ask the question, well, Mo Salah is going to cut in.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, now you got to watch the overlap with Szoboszlai, right?
Right.
So, oh, dude, now this guy can deliver from the right. Just like, oh, boy. That you won't have that problem with Harvey Elliott as much. Obviously they're professional footballers; they can do whatever they want. But like you would assume that he would be prioritizing his left. Maybe there's an argument that he takes McAllister's position up then, right? Because then he could do an overlap with the left, right?
Right. Or you start him on the right center mid, and if you need to make the in-game decision, hey, you're going to switch over to left center mid.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, Klopp obviously really likes him. The beginning of the season last year, he played some 17, 18 games straight, right?
Right.
He's still really young, too. I think we forget that a lot, is that he kind of came in really early, and he got a lot of game time, and they've been monitoring it, and rightly so. His injury didn't help. And he's finding his footing, but I think that's just the way that things go. It's like, look, Curtis is like 2 years older than him, 2, maybe 3 years older than him, and it shows, right? It's just like Curtis Jones, this is a pivotal season for him. He has to prove that he's just ready to do it at the highest level. And so far, seems like he's doing it, Was it an outstanding game on Saturday for Curtis Jones? No. Did it feel like sometimes maybe he went missing a little bit? Yes. But that also might be because of the system.
Yeah.
Because the fact that when we're in possession, he and Szoboszlai are pushing up to compress their final third, and if unfortunately, not to point fingers, if McAllister loses the possession in the first phase of our possession transition, well, they're sprinting towards the opposition goal, not back into defense. So it's like, okay, well, there could be an argument as to why Curtis Jones is a little bit absent, gone a little bit missing for the first 30 minutes of the game, because he's like, bro, I gotta you gotta pass me the ball, not the Wolves player. So. Either way, Harvey Elliott, great talent. I think he's going to get a lot of game time. I mean, nobody ever wants to say this out loud, but the Europa League could be one of the greatest things for our season this year, because it will give us the privilege of developing the likes of Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Ryan Gravenberch, Jarrell Kwanzaa. Just to name four now senior players that will be starters and leaders for the team, for the Europa League team. Just one man's opinion. Yeah. Well, what do you think? We're probably running at just about an hour here.
We are at 56 minutes right now.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you got any other things that you want to discuss about the game?
I mean, obviously we didn't post our test, but we got the midfield starting lineup right.
Yeah, we did. Just to give a little backstory, we did do a test because this is our first YouTube video. We wanted to make sure that all the technology was correct, and we did like sort of a pre-game for this coming weekend, and we did lineup predictions, and yeah, we correctly guessed the midfield.
And one of us got the scoreline right too.
Yeah, but I don't remember who it was, and it doesn't matter. Let's not talk about it. It wasn't me, obviously. Obviously, I didn't guess the score prediction correctly.
Hopefully, I can channel that when we're at Anfield in December, when I place my obligatory 10-pound bets. Yeah, my 10 pounds worth of bets at Anfield.
I love it.
Yeah. So, I guess looking forward, next match Thursday against LASK? LASK, wherever that is.
Yeah, it looks like we'll be doing a little bit of research before the game or after the game, so we can actually have some talking points to. Yeah, Thursday. It's going to be interesting.
Hold on. Is that the team that McAllister's brother plays for? That they showed him going like wild on the plane when the draw was announced?
Oh man, I have absolutely no idea.
I think it is.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, one of our teams in the group, McAllister's brother plays for.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be very fun. A little brotherly love action there.
Yeah.
Hopefully McAllister doesn't have to play.
Yeah.
Hopefully it could be Gravenberch, Curtis, Harvey Elliott.
Yeah,
that
right.
would be a great Europa League midfield, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or Endo, Gravenberch, Harvey Elliott. You know? Kwanzaa, Joe Gomez. Do we even have a right back?
Joe Gomez.
What if he's playing center back?
Who is that kid? What, Ramsey? Whoever they bought a couple years ago that's been hurt. Is that it? That has been hurt for 18 months or whatever, pretty much since we signed him.
Yeah. I think he had a spine issue. So it's not like...
It's not like his shin's hurt. It's like an actual, no crap.
Yeah, like, hey, like...
severe injury.
Figure out how to walk.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Yeah, okay. Well, this will be exciting. Europa League. Obviously, nobody's jazzed for it, but hey, we got to do what we got to do. Let's blood in some kids. Let's get some game time. Let's get some points on the board. Let's win another trophy, because why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Add another one to the cabinet under Kloppo.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any last words before we wrap this thing up? Or?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. This is our first video. We're going to be doing this throughout the rest of the entire season. We're excited to talk Liverpool Football Club. Hopefully we'll bring on some guests, some other people who enjoy Liverpool Football Club. Again, this is American LFC. Please like, subscribe, follow us, hit the bell notification so you can see all of our videos whenever we drop them. And as of right now, this is sort of the format, kind of just brothers, just talking.
Just talking.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thanks much, y'all.
All right.
Talk soon. Cheers.
All right. Bye.